Cineverse. Hello, and welcome to Cineverse, a weekly podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria.
And I'm David.
And this week on episode 44, we are discussing Taxi Driver, written by Paul Schrader and directed by Martin Scorsese. And here's the synopsis. A mentally unstable Vietnam War veteran works as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City, where the perceived decadence and sleaze feed his urge for violent action. Okay, so just to let the listeners know, this is my first viewing of said movie, Taxi Driver. So somehow I've managed to avoid this movie for like fucking 20 years, which is insane to me. Because I wish I would have seen this when I was younger. My just quick impressions of this film for anyone else, if there is anyone else who hasn't seen this movie. I think it is just immaculately directed. Like, this is like when this movie ended, I was like, holy shit. Like, I have like Scorsese directed the shit out of this movie. Like, it's just insanity how much visual potency that he's like jammed into this film, essentially about a maniac, and it's just so beautiful and gorgeous. And I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that in the spoilers when we can talk about the specific scenes. But it's mind blowing. Like if I would have saw this in a theater, I mean, like I don't know what I would like. I would have probably cried because it's just so cinematic, and like the editing, like by far probably like the best edited film I've ever seen in my life. Like, and that's dealing with like transitions and like fades and like how there's like scenes in this film that I just don't understand how you edit this, period. Like how you have images layer on top of each other in such a organic looking way. Like there's scenes where it literally looks like it's just the screen is liquid, and but you can still see things, but somehow it's all just bubbling into imagery. And oh my god, it's amazing. But I'll let you give your initial impressions.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now. It's in the top. It's in the top of the top movies for me, as it is for a lot of people. But I mean, yeah, it's hard to talk about without spoiling anything or talking about the plot specifics. But like, there's so many reasons to see this. Like acting, Robert De Niro, just young Robert De Niro knocks it out of the park. It's such a cool. I mean, the character is the main draw of this movie. Like it's all about that character, and he, like, reading about it today, like how much he prepared for this part, and like all the research and stuff that he did, and really all the actors. It sounds like it comes across in the screen, and just it's like it's one of the most fascinating like characters. And I know, based on what something you said before the podcast, maybe you think that this character has been done a lot in other movies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's not like a super. I mean, I would say it's unique in this movie, and that anything else. Like, I mean, you can't judge the original based on the remakes, but
Oh yeah.
I mean, it just the characters. Even watching it the fourth time, it's like I saw new kind of angles on it, or thought about him in different ways than I did before. The cinematography is like gorgeous. The night rainy shots of 70s New York City are just like beautiful. The trash and the random people roaming the streets, and just the neon lights and of the porno theaters, and just like wonderful like 70s New York. It's just, if I could go back, if I could just like time travel to any setting, I think it would be like, it sounds weird, but it would be 1970s New York, because it's just like such a, I love that whenever I see it in movies. But yeah, the cinematography is just great. The colors in this movie, the writing, obviously, Paul Schrader just did a fantastic job of just of even certain scenes, like the first scene where you see the main character, just the writing it's like so efficient, and you learn so much about the character in a short period of time. And there's so many great character moments in this movie. The music, this was like, oh my God, I'm gonna blank on the name right when I'm thinking about it.
The composer
yeah,
is
Bernard
Herman.
Yes, like legendary, legendary composer, and like Citizen Kane was his first movie composing,
Wow.
and this was his last movie. Like he
Holy shit.
like the day after he finished recording the music for this. So it's like it adds a lot to the movie. I feel like, even though it's very simple, but it's like it's very thoughtful. Yeah, I feel like I'll go for an hour if I continue. So that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, I would have to
great
hard agree with the composer Bernard Herrmann. Like that's one thing I wasn't expecting, because out of all the Scorsese movies I've seen, the score is never anything that I've enjoyed from his filmography. Not that he has bad scores, but he tends to have a lot of songs. Like
usually it's just
music,
a jukebox. Yeah, his movies.
Yeah, which is cool, but I would always rather have a score, like with original music versus having like hits or or even deep cuts. But just having this whole film just ride on this like insanely like seductive, but it also feels toxic score, and it's like how the jazz like melts with the imagery and the like and I don't know, it's just insane. Like it feels like a film from like the golden age of cinema, just how the images and the score like combine together. Like it just feels like timeless. Like even if you didn't like the story or the character of this film, I feel like you could watch this film in silence, or not in silence, but you could remove those aspects and just have the score and the image, and it would be still a phenomenal, like
a really nice music video.
Yeah, yeah, because the score is just God, like it's insane. Like even the end and like how it begins, which I assume, like I think a lot of people talk about, like how the film kind of starts with this smoke cloud, and then the cab is just riding through like a mobile coffin, just carrying our main character. But the other thing, like I really want to give a big shout out to the cinematographer Michael Chapman. Like this is from all the Scorsese films that I've seen so far, and like maybe Raging Bull will top it, but like I think this is his best visual work that Scorsese has ever done. Like it's insane. And but I will get to the part that I went into this movie, and how like I think you told me like it's really dark and I'm gonna like it, and then I always hear everyone say like it's a really dark movie, and I mean I think it is dark, but that's not the part that kind of bothered me, or that I found, well, not bothered me. Like this film was very uncomfortable to watch, and I'm curious to see if like you felt any of the discomfort. But like this isn't a film I would like put on and watch again and again. Like I do want to watch it again for the technical stuff, but like as an actual film that I would want to revisit, like the feelings that it gave me. Like I don't think I would want to. And the shocking thing, because I listened to like hours of podcasts, like all day at work today. I was just plowing through podcasts discussing this film and like its importance and all that stuff. And like I think I might be like the only one or something, but I found this film like incredibly like racist. Like it felt it felt like insanely racist. Like this is by far the most racist film I have ever seen in my life.
What in the world?
Yeah, and like no one brings it up, but like I mean it's pretty obvious that the main character, what is his name? Travis Bickle?
Yeah.
it's very obvious that he's a racist, and like I don't think this is necessarily a negative of the film, because I think the film is trying to do it, but it's just weird that no one really talks about that part. But it's like every time we see a black character in the film, he's like, it immediately feels like they are a danger or a threat, or they are like beneath this main character, or that they are, like he constantly says in monologue, like cleanse the city and like the scum or
Yeah.
whatever of the city and the earth. And like it just happens to be that every time he says that, the cameras, pans out or looks at the street, and then we see a bunch of black characters. And then, like, I mean, I'll get more into the specifics and the spoilers, but I mean, like, there's one edit where I was like, all right, like, and that's kind of where I drew the line. I was like, man, this film it's really driving it home. Like every chance it got to like reinforce that, it did. And then to know, well, I'll have to save this last part for the spoilers, but like I learned something about the original script that Scorsese had to change, because he also, and this is like the only like note I could find about the film having these like really racist vibes, was Scorsese cutting a certain or altering a certain part of the script, so because he thought, oh, that would push it beyond what we would want to do with the film.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because I read that too.
But
It's like that was on the director's mind as well. I feel like is important to point out. So he didn't want the movie to be racist, but I mean, I think if there's anything, I don't know. I think some of those things are coincidences. Some of them it's because it's from the character's perspective.
Yeah.
And then others might be that Paul Schrader was a little racist. and it maybe came through a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, none of his other movies that we've seen so far have anything like that in them. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I would chalk it up to the main character and just the demographics of the parts of New York City that were being filmed. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I was going to mention, is that, I don't know what the 70s or what New York City was like in the 70s. I know there was...
It was horrible.
Yeah, I know there was a period of intense systemic racism where like governors and like law enforcement and just like how the city was dealing with crime. So like I don't know, this could be like an honest portrayal of it, but I guess my problem was I wasn't expecting it. so as the film progressed, I was like, man, I really don't enjoy this. Like just watching this man, like, and I guess that's and it's not a fault of the film. Like it's a taste problem. Like some people don't like rom-coms. I guess I just don't like and this is what's weird, is that, we've been on a roll where I'm like, I like sad people, like sad men talking about whatever the fuck, but I guess I draw the line with sad racist men. Like, I guess that's, I don't enjoy that. And then and I guess we can get to more deeper problems dealing with that when we can talk about his actual actions and motives or stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. I was not expecting that angle on this movie.
So you didn't feel that at all, like during the watching of it?
I thought about it, I thought about it a couple of times. I don't know, I guess, as watching it, but it's never something that like stuck in my mind, because I just thought, oh, like that's him, that's the character. I don't know, or it's just random, because there are a lot of like, just random shots of sidewalk, bunch of people on sidewalks and stuff. There's a bunch of those shots in the movie. And so, I don't know. I think most of it is coincidence and just demographics, and then some of it, is the character's perspective and his weird, like the weird lens that he's seeing the world through, and it makes sense that his mind would go down that avenue, and But then I do think it is funny that they had to change the script a little bit, because even the director is like, all right, Paul Schrader. That would be a little much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would give that warning to any viewer who hasn't seen the film. Like, just go in it, because like if I would have known that, I think I would have enjoyed my experience a little more, just being aware of it. And then also, like, this is by far, well, so far that I've seen, like, Scorsese's darkest film. Like, it is just completely bleak in
Mm-hmm.
in aesthetic and in like the narrative and the portrayal of the events, which I enjoyed that aspect of the film. Like, I like how just pessimistic and
It is
I don't.
like, it's weird that this was like, what was this Paul Schrader's first script? Or no, it wasn't. It wasn't his first, but it was his first most famous, I guess. But I'm just
Yeah, it
thinking
was just.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
he wrote this before he sold Yakuza was his first produced film, but he
okay,
wrote this before
before.
Yakuza. Yeah.
Okay, so it was like his first
Yeah.
script that he wrote and finished. And it's like, I don't know, like, it's just crazy. It's crazy. I forgot exactly what I was going to say, but it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy that this is his first script. And
Yeah.
apparently they didn't change it very much, like from the first draft to the last. And it's just like, I don't know, just the
Yeah.
writing is just so good. And also I feel like it's weird that it's, what I was going to say, I'm just remembering, is that it's weird that this was the first of his scripts. And this is like the most pure Paul Schrader. Like, this is the most like boiled down, like you see the pieces of this in all of his other movies, but you don't see all of it except in this movie. Even in Mishima, I was just thinking in my head of connections between this character when he brought up racism.
Yeah.
I thought of connections between Travis Bickle and Mishima. Like, there's even connections to be made there. So it's like, it's interesting. This is Paul Schrader. Like, if you just want to see one of his movies that he wrote, like, this is it. And it's
Now,
so pure. That's why I like about it. Like, I haven't seen any other movie that they all feel like echoes of this movie. And so that's why I feel like this is the classic. Like, this is the classic Paul Schrader.
so would you say this is your favorite Schrader work or Schrader writing?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I would actually say this is probably. I mean, he has some great, like, I can tell. Well, to me, it feels like a first draft because, and that's like kind of the other little issues that I have with this film, is that it feels the most aimless from the works that I've seen from him. Uh, and it's just, I think this is the weakest character that he's written. Like, Travis Bickle as an entity, I feel like is his thinnest person. You know, like, he seems to write these damaged characters, and like, and that was one of the difficult things. Is like, I feel like technically this film is just masterful in literally every technical aspect. But like, I feel like a lot of the reason why this character works is because De Niro. Like, De Niro is just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely demolishing this role, and like, and that brings up a lot of the improv stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of the character, like the substance of this personality, is coming from De Niro's work, which is like phenomenal. Like, if we were to make a top 10 acting list, or like top 10 performances in cinema history, I mean, I would place him immediately up there for this film. Like, it's like stunning.
I don't know. I think it's 50-50, him and Paul Schrader. I'm going to go back to defending because I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, man, I made so many notes about the writing and just like how many just great just moments of writing there are in this movie where it's just so efficient. I think I like it because I mean, it's a 2-hour movie, but still it's like the writing feels really efficient and all of it. I think why this is one of my greats, movies is that the more you watch it, the more you realize that even though there are lots of parts of this movie that are improvised or that are random because they're like, street shots in public, like all of the movie almost every aspect like feeds into the mood that the movie is trying to give you. Like every little detail. I was even reading about something didn't even notice on the fourth viewing, but read about, like even a little patch on the main character's jacket, like is symbolic and is purposeful.
Wow.
Like, and it's just like, and it's just the writing. It's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's just so it's so spot on that, and I do think that the character is deeper maybe than you're saying. Like I don't he doesn't have like, if I'm to contrast it with your favorite First Reforms, like that character has a very clear like focus. Well, this character does too though. You know, like you could say climate change and global warming is like whatever the main the trigger for that character, and like that's his motivation or whatever, like for his mood that he's in. But I don't know. I feel like Travis Bickle has his things too. Maybe some of them are a little bit too implied, like his veteran status, the fact that he was in Vietnam. But I don't know. Then a lot of others, it just makes sense. Like, and I think it's even more of a, like, to even add more credence to how much this character makes sense. You can just look at that, like this movie literally inspired an assassination attempt by a similar person in real life. The guy that, I forget his name, but tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan was inspired by this movie and was so transfixed by this movie. And like, he was that character, and so he saw this movie and it influenced him to, I don't know, it's so weird to talk about, but it's like, it's strange that this movie had such a direct impact on real life and like real world events that I feel like is almost in a really perverse way, like a testament to how pinpoint this character is and this type of person. But we can talk more about specifics, I guess.
Yeah. I guess my problem was I didn't empathize or sympathize with this character, which I don't think you're supposed to.
Yeah, is that a flaw though? Because I mean, I feel like that's completely intentional.
Yeah, yeah.
And also how you felt about how the movie made you feel. I mean, that was intentional. It would be a bad thing if it made you feel. Well, I mean, maybe the racist aspect was not completely intentional how you felt about it, but just the feel. It's a feel bad movie, you know.
Yeah,
and it's completely intentional.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, what would you give this film out of 10?
Okay. I looked at my IMDb today and I was stunned that I had this movie at an 8 out of 10. And I was like, what the heck?
Wow.
Why is this an 8 out of 10? I haven't seen it in years, but I guess I was just needed to see it again. Because I think this is the first. I don't know. I think it is the first of my Cineverm 10 out of 10s. Because it for sure is a 10 out of 10. Like, no doubt. Like, this is like what character movies should aspire to. Like this is the aim, like to have a movie where you're focusing on you total focus on a character. This is like what all A24 movies are trying to do. Like, you pick a character, you focus on them, but through that character you also see this, like, these broader problems like in society, or these broader personality types, but you're totally just like locked into this character's perspective, and everything in the movie, every aspect is like working in perfect harmony to create this mood, and this message. I mean, it's not really a message. It's not like a morality tale, but it's like, I guess mood is the best word. Like, everything in the movie is contributing to it. Like, I can't think of a single aspect of the movie that is like flawed, like where I would say, oh yeah, that everything about the movie is great except for this aspect. I mean, like, everything, the costumes, the makeup, the cinematography, the acting, the writing, even all the improvising that they did, like the setting, the cinematography, like the music, everything contributes. Like, there's not a weak weak spot, in my opinion. So yeah, highly recommend this one.
Wow. That is oh my God, that's amazing, because that makes this film, because I will also give it a 10 out of 10. That makes it officially Cineverm's highest rated film. It's the
first
awesome.
10 out of 10. Nice.
But yeah, I would echo the same sentiments. I think on every technical field, this film is just a miracle of like production. Like I feel like if anyone who wants to make films or write would, do themselves a service by watching this. Like I feel like me as a wannabe filmmaker, like this is like a pinnacle of pinnacles, like in just the craft and like how they constructed it, and it's just insane. And I guess the only problem I have is more of a taste problem,
Hmm.
which is like it doesn't align with what I like in movies, but it's hard to deny that it is, a masterful piece of cinema. So that concludes our review portion of Taxi Driver. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. And you can check out our snazzy website, cineverm.com, where we also have written reviews. Okay, now let's spoil this thing. So where would you like to start?
Well, you always ask me that, and I never know. But we
Oh,
usually start at the ending, so
oh yeah,
maybe
yeah,
we could
yeah.
talk about that. Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, so you said, well, I don't know if you said this, but were you not satisfied with the ending in particular, or?
Oh no, I love the ending.
Oh,
Well, I
okay,
guess
okay,
yeah, we can touch on the racist stuff first.
sure, sure.
So I guess it's just so in the original version of the script, I think you said you read it too. The
Hmm.
the final shootout was supposed to have all black characters, and then that was kind of the line that Scorsese drew in the line, or that's where he drew the line because the only other character that got killed was a grocery store robber who also happened to be a black man.
Hmm.
And then it's just so it's like after that scene, it was like the grocery store guy like beating him with a lead pole, and then I was like, oh, okay, okay. But then and then he walks out, and then like he's driving his cab, and then he gets like attacked by like a group of like uh black teenagers or young adults,
Uh-huh.
and then it continues on, and he's like looking at the streets, and then like there's a lot of like black characters that the film is like focusing on while he's looking out, and I mean they're like all over the place when he's looking, in the porn theaters and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But then it's after he kills that guy, he drives home, and when we cut into his apartment, and like he's holding his gun like by his head, and he's just like hanging out watching TV. And then the first scene we see is like a scene of like a black couple on the TV screen, and just seeing like him killing a black man, him being attacked by black kids on the street, and then showing him looking at them in disgust and other black characters, and then he's home holding a gun, and then it just feels like he's watching another black couple with a gun in his hand. And I don't know, like that whole segment felt incredibly like off-putting. And then like the part where I really dislike, which I think you like this scene, and I think it is a good scene, but like I think the scene works because it made me feel gross like watching it. And
Yeah.
it's just so crazy to me that it's the scene with Scorsese, and he's the writer
Oh, yeah.
in the back of the cab, and he's talking about killing some lady that's cheating on him. And I was like, that has to be like one of the dirtiest, grossest scenes I've ever seen in like film history. Like it just felt like ugly. Like it just felt wrong. But so like those elements tied together, I was like, oh my god, man! Like I did not enjoy this experience. Like I didn't enjoy that whole aspect of the film.
I thought it was I did not remember that scene, or I didn't remember that he dropped the N bomb. And then I realized that, like, I always thought that scene with Quentin Tarantino in Pulp Fiction was like the only would you
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
you wouldn't imagine that there would be two separate auteurs who both decided to have a cameo in their movie and both say the N word and be racist. It's like
Yeah, like
what the I was like, wow, what a weird a connection there, that this happened at least twice with big directors. Yeah, I don't know why because I don't think Martin Scorsese is racist, but it's interesting that he put himself as that character in that scene. But at the same time, this whole movie, the vibe of this whole movie is seedy. Like every story you hear, like the cabbies tell, it's all about like, they're talking about midgets, and they're talking about gay people using derogatory terms, and it's like that's the whole vibe of this movie is seedy racist, like New York City in the 70s with all of its tensions and like strife and crime and violence and the garbage strike, like, which was totally like a coincidence in this movie, but you see that it's funny how Joker brought that back and made that part of Joker, like, very intentionally, but totally stolen from this movie.
Oh my god, I forgot to say that in the review. Joker was god.
And then Light Sleeper, Paul Schrader does the garbage strike thing, like, again in Light Sleeper, in another one of his movies, like making that like a little thing that just kind of adds to the, I don't know, feeling. But in Taxi Driver, it was like completely just a coincidence that was happening when they were filming. So it's like just everything like that. So I kind of, I imagine that racism was a big part of New York City in the 70s. And so I'm kind of just like, you know what? I don't know. None of it made me feel like ew, like this was like unintentionally cringe. Like, I just feel like all of it was very intentionally cringe, including like the scene with Martin Scorsese being angry at his wife cheating on him or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, that's what people are going to say, stuff like that. Like when they discover their wife cheating on them and they're racist, or maybe a little bit racist, like that character, like they're going to say stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it wasn't out of character for this movie or for like that type of character or the situation. So I was like, okay, it makes sense.
I guess my whole thing was like, it's so ironic, and like, I guess I don't understand as a creator. It's like, so if you like, because I think I would have rather preferred if they would have left the script how it was, and it was just an insanely scathing, toxic, racist film. Like I feel like it's like this weird middle ground for me where it's like, and then it's just ironic that it's Scorsese saying this stuff, and I'm like, wait, you were the one that didn't want to make this racist, so why would you like? And all you would have had to do was cut that one word off, and then change the robber to another white guy or something, and then like like all the racial like things that you tied in would kind of just evaporate. So it's just such a strange choice, but I think it's just a time period. I mean, like, if like I'm thinking back to I read the guy who wrote like Journey to the Center of the Earth,
H.G. Wells.
Yeah. Oh no, not him. Fuck. Oh, is it H.G. Wells?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Or it's
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
I forgot his name. But anyways, his first novel that I read, it's like traveling Africa in like a hot air balloon, and it is incredibly racist. And I was just
Jules Verne. Sorry.
Yeah, Jules Verne. Yeah. And I had the same thing with them. I'm like, God, man, like the story's nice, but it's like, it's like that's what bothered me. Is like it feels like the film isn't. But I guess it's a testament to the film because it is. Like I know Tarantino has said about this film that it's probably the only first person film ever made. Like it feels like you're inside of his brain, and I would agree with that. But it's so weird watching it and feeling that I don't know. I think I would have preferred it to go all the way or to remove it.
It's like, Huckleberry Finn, like that's a big one that schools, have constantly struggled with. Like, how do we teach this book? Because it has this word in it so many times. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel the same way. It's just kind of like, it is of its time period. it isn't. I mean, I feel like it's clear who the racist characters are, and that we're not necessarily, it's not like they're the good guys or the heroes or the protagonists.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not supposed to. We're not. See, it's weird because I think we're sort of supposed to empathize with Travis Bickle a little bit, but like we're not supposed to think he's like a good person or like someone to like, So I think the movie was like clear about that.
So, but yeah, to wrap that conversation up, I was gonna say that besides the whole racist thing, that scene with Scorsese, like it is that's probably
I
like
loved
the
it.
best acting I've seen a director ever do.
Yeah.
That's the best cameo acting I've ever seen. It was just insanely like interesting. Like, put the
Better
handle
th-
down, put it down. Like,
better than M. Night Shyamalan. Come on now.
no,
on.
yeah. Like, I mean, it made me kind of like damn, like why doesn't Scorsese act more? Like the fact that he can fucking act against, fucking De Niro, like that's insanity to me.
I thought it.
And
I
that
thought it was.
and that it worked in the scene.
Yeah, and it was funny that his character was sort of directing Travis Bickle. Like I thought that was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek
Yeah.
kind of funny thing. He was just constantly like bickering at him, telling him what to do. And then he also
Yeah.
had one of the best lines of the movie about imagining what a 44 Magnum is going to do to a woman's pussy. It's just like so uncomfortable, like, and just such a right one of those things. Like there's lots of lines in this movie that just make you cringe,
Yeah.
but are just so specific. And I'm just like, oh man, I secretly love that stuff. Like it's just,
Yeah.
I like the seediness of it. I think Paul Schrader does so well with that in this movie. So many little lines like that about like Travis Bickle talking about having to clean the cum out of the backseat of his taxi every morning, just like stuff like that. It's just like, oh my God, this is so distasteful.
Yeah, like it is by far the dirtiest film that I feel like I've seen, where you can just feel the film does not give a fuck. Like, how some people are
Yeah.
like, this is punk or whatever. Like this film is
Yeah,
punk. Like this
it does
is
feel like that.
like it is anti everything, and it's so shocking that this is the one that kind of blew up for both of them. And like it makes me finally understand why a lot of, like, I always hear people call Scorsese like, like his films are racist or his films are misogynist, and or like, they're sexist, and they treat women characters a certain way, and like all that. Like I feel like all that, I can finally understand that. I feel like it comes from this film, because this is the only film that I've felt feels incredibly well, and I think it's because Travis's, character in the film. Like he is just like, it's so ironic that he's talking about the scum, and I'm like, man, well, this guy is like, I don't see a single redeeming element to his character. And like, I guess that brings me to a question, like, because this is like probably the first Schrader script that I've seen that I had no sympathy and no empathy for this character. Like this guy is just truly, like, I don't know, there was like nothing redeeming about him. Or did you find anything? Or
Well,
like,
yeah, I read stuff like that. Okay, like even Paul Schrader, like in quotes from him and I think Martin Scorsese, like saying stuff like that about the character, like how he's just completely unredeemable, blah, 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 blah. But like, obviously, like any movie that's going to focus on a character, you have to make them like empathetic in some way, even if they're like a serial killer or something. Like there has to be something that you see in them. So like, I feel like for him, it's at least that, well, first of all, I mean, he was in Vietnam. He, like, there's one scene where he's doing push-ups and you can see that it's just a huge scar on his shoulder. And so that makes me, and he was honorably discharged, he says. So I'm like, okay, he probably went through some like serious shit in Vietnam. Then, you add on top of that just the social isolation, he doesn't seem like the brightest guy. He's obviously like separated from his family and doesn't really know anyone. He's socially awkward. He has insomnia. He like all this stuff. And you're like, you could see that he's more of like a broken character than a evil character. I think it's just that he's broken and it's like the it's like the it reminds me of Donald Trump. I hate to make it like topical, but like it's the kind of like young people that would be drawn to being like alt-right or whatever, like because of loneliness or like social isolation or mental illness or whatever, like that, whatever that is. Like I feel like it happens to Travis Bickle too, because like all of his stuff that he says is very like almost like fascist or something. I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe it or what the best word for it is, but like the God, what do you call obsession with like cleanliness and yeah, like just filth and garbage and calling other people filth, and
Yeah.
scum and all that stuff. And his, but then at the same time, like his life is a mess, and so obviously he's projecting a lot of it. He's projecting like his disgust with himself onto other people, and I feel like that happens a lot with people with racism and stuff like that. I think a lot of it is like, for some that it's their feelings of inadequacy or whatever or insecurity. They just project it onto an other. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on with his character that I wouldn't just like write him off as, oh my God, he's just like a psychopath, or like he's just a racist, or like, I don't know. Like I think it's meant to be deeper than that.
But see, I think that is because I find this script specifically from Schrader, like I feel like it's like I would probably put it along with the card counter. Like I feel like it has a lot of flaws, and I think the biggest flaw is his, like Travis doesn't have any real goals or ambitions. One, where like all the other characters do have something, and then two, the whole like he's a Vietnam War veteran. Like I feel like that to me was such a weak like kind of cop out because they never say anything really about it and they don't show anything really about it. And then it's like a flaw because you see him tackle other characters' pains and they talk about him directly. So like for First Reformed, you see like it's the religion that has kind of beaten him down to a pulp, and then like his failed marriage, and then you even have a scene with him and his ex talking, and the card counter you see him having nightmares, and in Mishima you see him coping with his childhood. And in this film it's just like it's tossed in there. And then because like from what I was feeling from because from his character, like it felt like someone who joined the military and then he was let go because either like his intelligence, because it's kind of like it's really obvious that he is not a very intelligent person. Like he lacks a lot of like common sense and like
Mm-hmm.
social skills on like a minimum
Yeah.
standard. Like I do
Yeah.
feel like he has some sort of like mental illnesses that are like handicapping his ability
Yeah.
to understand other people. Uh and like I don't know, it's just weird that he didn't go into any depth of like what's causing them trauma. Like it feels like just and then like and I read like interviews with Schrader talking about like he had gone through a divorce and he was like homeless, and he wrote this script in like whatever, like a couple nights or something. And like how you said it was the first draft, and he was like, all my dark thoughts, I just put them on here. And like that's what it feels like to me. Like it feels like all the dark thoughts, but it doesn't feel like, well, what's the actual purpose, or like what are you questioning, or what are you trying to say? Like it just feels like here's this piece of shit and he's blaming everyone. And like that's the main thing I like about Schrader's work is his characters, even though they're flawed, crappy people, or like they suffer from like toxic masculinity and they're spewing that into the world, is that in the other films that I've seen from him, his characters are always questioning themselves. And like that's what I empathize with, is like that idea that you're always like, wait, what am I doing, why am I doing this? And then it's like life is what's beating them into exploding. Where this film feels like I never got a true moment of Travis ever questioning himself, and like I think it's just a lack of I think he's just like a mentally ill person. Like that this
Yeah.
story is just about this person who has no capacity to question himself. And like that aspect I didn't like, because then I don't know, then it just feels kind of gross, because I don't know. It just feels like maybe I don't know. Like it just it didn't sit well with me.
I see what you're saying there. Like, okay, if he's like so dumb or so mentally incapacitated that he can't question himself, it's like it almost seems like exploitation or something.
Yeah, it's like
when you said that, I got like a little glimmer of like agreement in my brain, but at the same time, like I'm trying to think what in this movie, like the closest thing that you could say that if it's trying to like make a commentary about that is when he's trying to talk to the other taxi guy. I think the Wizard is his like nickname, and like he's asking him for advice basically, and like the taxi guy just spits a bunch of like a bunch of really, which is another funny scene. I feel like this movie is very funny, like also, which is silly, like it's weird, but I feel like this movie is very dark and disgusting, but also it's like, or this time when I was watching it, I realized it was like surprisingly funny in certain scenes, like that scene where he's giving him all of this vague, like common sense advice, which does sound very silly, and then Travis Bickle's just like, that has to be some of the dumbest bullshit I've ever heard, which is kind of true. Like at that moment, it's like he's not, because right before that, it's like Travis is telling him about how he wants to do really bad things. Like he has really bad thoughts. He wants to. It reminded me of like, which again is kind of sad, but in Joker, like the scenes where he's talking to therapists and stuff, and it's like so obvious,
yeah.
like all the red flags are there, but the system or the person that he's talking to, it's just it's not. They're not going to be able to help him at all, and that's like the hopelessness you feel. And that's kind of how I felt in that scene in this movie. It's just like, yeah, like he's showing all these red flags, and maybe in like a perfect society, people would pick up on it. They'd be able to call someone, and someone would be able to connect them to people that would help him. But in 1970s New York, like he has no hope. Like there are no safety nets. He's going to go out in a blaze of glory, this guy, probably. So I don't know. I like to watch movies where it's just sometimes where it's just like a character spiraling downward. Like I feel like that's one of my movie, kinks, is just watching like taking a character that's sort of semi-functioning at the beginning, but then you start to see all these cracks in their personality, and it's just a big spiral downward until the end. I don't know why I find that it's a tragedy. I mean, I don't know. The points of tragedies are just that they're tragedies. Like you're not supposed to feel good about it. You're not supposed to necessarily get like I don't know. There might be a takeaway. I'm trying to think if there's any takeaway to this character or this movie. I guess it would be like, look out for people like this and personalities like this, because they're everywhere. And I don't know.
And but see, I feel like that's a self-fulfilling, like, and that's kind of why I feel like this film is really toxic, is because it's like you're just saying people like this are evil. Like there's no substance behind it. It's just
just that they need support. They need support. They need structure. They need something that the society that they're in cannot give them. And so that's like the tragedy of it.
But I don't think this film poses that. Like, I don't think this film ever acknowledges that he needs help or hints at that someone needs to help him. Like, it's just him, if that makes sense. Like, like it feels just like a film just to, dive into these dark thoughts. But then there's no like logic behind those dark thoughts. So I guess that's like where I'm like having the roadblocks connecting with him, because it's like everything he says is just like he's like saying these dark things, but like nothing really has any meaning. Like for example, the one scene where he's talking to the politician who's going to be like the next president or whatever, the candidate that he's going to attempt to kill later on in the film. That first taxi drive with him, and like it's a great scene and it's a great moment. But when he asks him like what would you want to see different, or what change would you like to see? And then he's like, well, I'm not political, but and then he just goes on and like, I want to fucking wash the scum of the city, and
Yeah.
everyone needs to fucking die, like that. Like in a way, that answer that he gives to that politician is like, that's the amount of depth that I feel for the whole film. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's like, I just know, having seen other Schrader works, I'm like, I could see if he were to revisit this film and rewrite it, or like, I feel like there's another layer you can dig under this, where this is just the emotion, this is just, I want to kill everybody. But like, in like First Reformed, I feel like his initial emotional inception was, we're destroying the earth and no one gives a fuck. And then that's when you start digging and you start building an actual narrative that is, has a character with an arc. And like how you were saying, this character spiraling, I feel like literally the first scene of the movie, he is already at his bottom. Like I feel like the film is just him already spiraled, because I don't see him ever truly achieving any, like he never grows, and he never like lowers. Like he's just a constant state of fucked up. And it's just like, it's just happenstance that he's involving himself in situations.
Yeah, I guess it's more like he's starting out at the bottom, and then he sees, like a lot of Paul Schrader movies, like he sees his salvation in something and he latches onto it. And
Yeah.
but it's his doom also. So like, yeah, I don't know what I was going to say about that. I mean, he does, I guess his most stable that we see him in the movies when he's going out on dates with the Betsy character.
Oh yeah.
But he messes that up royally. And one of the funniest, just like, what the fuck are you doing moments in movies, taking her to a porno.
So talking about that, what did you think about like that whole dynamic? Like, what did you think about him asking her out on the dates and her responses? Like, what did you feel from that whole element of the film?
Uh, yeah, I like Sybil Shepherd, like,
Yeah.
aesthetically and just as an actor, because it's like she captures that, like how you feel, I guess, or how guys feel when they're really attracted to a girl and they can't figure out, like they're really nervous about all of that person's reactions to them and everything that they're saying, but like their face is just like a cipher, like you can't like figure out what they're thinking. And like, I don't know, when I was watching this time, I was like, Sybil Shepherd does that really well for some reason, where like, I don't think she's that great of an actress necessarily. I was reading things about behind the scenes of this movie that just hinted me that maybe she's not that great of an actress. She's been in good movies, but like, I don't know, like her face, it seems like she was thinking a lot of things, but she wasn't saying many of them. And
Yeah.
I just thought that added perfectly like to this dynamic, because like well, I don't know, he's like weirdly confident though. He's not that nervous. I mean, he says he's nervous, but he's like weirdly confident in that crazy person way. Like he just puts on his red coat, his red velvet jacket, and he just strolls into that office and asks her out. Like, I like that whole scene. I mean, this is one of those movies where it's like every scene I'm going to say that, but I don't know. I love that whole sequence and how I think it's that she's kind of bored. Maybe, I don't know. She's like a typical, like, stereotypical, which might not be true of a stereotype, but I can see Paul Schrader writing this as a stereotype of like an attractive girl. Obviously she's more like upper class than Travis, but she's attracted to the bad boys. She's got the guy in the office, the nerdy guy that's more stable, and she likes him. Like, it's kind of obvious that she likes him, but also she's attracted to the fucked up, bad boy, which is Travis Bickle, until he shows that he's truly like just out of touch with reality.
Yeah.
Then she pieces out. But up until that point, she's just kind of fascinated with his kind of, I guess, like the viewer would be maybe at first, like, oh, okay, like, who is this weird guy? Like, and like everyone keeps saying, like, I think when he first runs into the Harvey Keitel character, like you're a weird dude. Like, they're sort of interested in him because he's so weird.
Yeah.
But it's the kind of weirdness that the more you learn about the person, the less you're interested in them, because you're like, oh, you're like that kind of weird.
Yeah.
you're just completely messed up weird. You're not just quirky. Yeah. So I like that whole relationship and how it goes.
Yeah, and like the whole confidence thing, I feel like that's because I interpreted from the film that because it was, shown that she was like, he's been out there for hours and days or whatever, like staring at me. I feel like he's like when he was just going through the motions of what she would say and then what I will say, and it feels like a very planned and then like you see it when he's in front of the mirror and other parts where he's like rehearsing his lines, like he's memorizing what to say. So I feel like that whole all of his interactions with her were like pre-planned to the word, and like I
Mm-hmm.
can even feel it specifically when they go to the diner. Like how that conversation goes is so like there's such harsh cuts to the point where like he says like a joke like I have that poster where I need to get organized or whatever,
Yeah.
and then she realizes and then she adds in like her like a natural conversation, you add something that's related to that. So she mentions like another kind of poster that people would have, and it throws him off
He
like
doesn't
his
get it.
yeah, because he would have never anticipated her saying that, and then he
Yeah.
just immediately goes into talking shit about her coworker and
Yeah. Oh
saying
my
like,
God.
he doesn't like you, he's a piece of shit. And then like what I was thinking about was like how he is kind of like the definition of like a very like he like in his mind he's like the alpha kind of male type of personality where it's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
for me to make a girl fall in love with me, I have to make her hate other guys. And like that, like his tactic was I need to talk shit about her coworker, and he does like four times just in their short interactions. Like, you don't feel that spark, you feel that spark with me. And then
Yeah.
like
I
it's
love, and see, that's another, I'm adding that to my scoreboard of like great writing in this movie, because I just feel like so many of those little lines that he has in his interactions with her are just like so spot on to that like incel kind of character that like is really insecure, but also thinks very highly of themselves compared to other people. But
yeah.
it comes across as like thinks they're the alpha, but comes across as like really creepy and awkward. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like it's interesting to see that type has been around for so long. It
Yeah.
is just perfectly spot on in this movie. Like I love like when he goes into the office for the first time and he's giving a first speech to her that like he keeps getting nervous, I get, because she's just silent and he keeps adding stuff to it, but it gets weirder and weirder. Like he starts projecting onto her. Like he's like, "You're lonely. I could tell. I could just tell you're not happy. You need something. You need someone. I can tell. I can just tell. I walked in, and then in the diner later, he's like, I could just tell that you didn't have a connection with that guy in your office, but when I walked in, we connected immediately. Like I could feel it, and blah blah blah. It's just like he's projecting so hard, like on her, and yeah, it's like we don't know if she was feeling any of that at all, but I
Yeah.
just thought it was written so well, just where that's so true. Like that's such a thing. Like that's such a thing that you see so often. Like people reading other people's minds, but they're just projecting their own thoughts on that person. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel like that's his whole character. Like I feel like that's Travis Bickle is like, I think that's why he comes across as so like all the horrible things he says about the city in general and people. It's like that's really his self-hatred, but he has to project it or else I mean, he would just kill himself, which he is kind of suicidal. And again, like, oh, what was the other movie we were just watching the other day? Oh, Mishima. So it's like the same phenomenon. Like he was probably suicidal, but he had to come up with a noble way to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And so when he finally found it, like he went all in on that. And that's what Travis Bickle does. So
Yeah. Well, speaking about the suicide, see, so as a first-time viewer, I was like, "Oh, I know this film. He's going to attempt to murder this politician and fail, and it's going to end in like a bloody shootout in this audience."
mm,
So when that fake out moment happened, and he had to like run away, I was like, "Wait, what is happening in the film now?" What did you think? Like now that you've seen it a couple times, what do you think about that whole like what is your perspective on like why was he going to kill the politician one, and then like what do you think that says about his character or the film or the theme itself that he didn't even attempt again to murder this guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually had that written down as a question I was going to ask you as a
Oh,
first time
okay.
viewer, like what you thought, like why specifically why does he want to kill Palantine? Because it's like I I feel like it's just his messed up brain just connecting the rejection of Betsy with that guy somehow.
Yeah.
But that's the best I can think of. So I don't know. Don't know if you had any thoughts on that. But then after that, I love that. Like that's the fake out because you're thinking, oh, like
Yeah.
this is the big thing. He wrote the letter. I'll be dead after this. So you're like, all right, this is it. And it's a great scene. Like the way it's built up, it's very tense. The reveal of the mohawk, the haircut is great, and he's standing at all the shots in that scene of him like standing a little bit separate from the back of the crowd, and just smiling up at the stage and clapping really loud. And I love that scene.
It's truly deranged. Like that smile is like one of the most deranged looks I've ever seen any performer give. Like it's just yeah. But so the interpretation that I had was because like I was trying to like figure out his psychology and it seems very basic. Like he is a very blamey type of person. Like as soon as
Yeah.
if he sees anyone talk shit about any other group or people, I feel like he's immediately like, yeah, those people are scum, and he's like immediately judging and putting everyone beneath him on a humanity level. So I think once she denied him, the immediate reaction would have been to kill the other office guy, but I think he saw the other office guy as such a non-threat because he found him as such a bottom of the barrel scum as well. But then he saw that she saw the politician as this like godly figure. Like
Yeah.
she was obsessed with him. Or at least
Yeah.
in his mind, she was obsessed with him. And like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's how his mind works. So he was like, well, I need to kill him so she can feel my pain. And I guess that's the whole like incel ideology is, women are the problem because they don't love me. Therefore, I
Yeah.
need to cause havoc on women. Like it's a
If you
very evil thought process.
It's crazy how this is so incel, like like it's so his character is very Elliot Rodger, like uh, it's exactly that. Like it's weird that that's such a like it's that you would think that that's a very modern like internet age personality, but not at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I like your explanation. That kind of makes sense. It's
And
just
then,
she's on stage, she's there clapping for him and introducing him and stuff. Like, yeah,
yeah.
obviously he's gonna kill that guy.
Yeah. And then like the thing that's even more interesting to me is that he goes on to this mission to save what's her name? Jodie
Iris,
Foster's character.
yeah,
Yeah, Iris. And then I'm like, "Oh, so he's turning to good." But even those moments where he's talking to her, which is a beautiful scene in like a diner that we can get into deeper, but like
yeah,
it's like the only reason he went to save her and to kill these you know sex traffickers and drug dealers was literally because he couldn't kill this other guy.
mm-hmm,
Like
yeah,
this was the next like, well, I guess I'll have to settle for this. So it's
yep.
like he couldn't get the woman he wanted and he doesn't want the woman he could get. So he just fucking kills whoever he can. And it's like it's so weird because I see a lot of people like, well, not a lot of people, but how the movie acknowledges him as like a hero at the end because he kills these like, and it's so interesting like having, you could just kill the right people and then you're claimed a hero even though you're fucking psychotic. Like I think that was such an interesting idea that I was not expecting.
I'm of the I don't know if you heard anybody else that has this opinion, but like I am in the camp that all of that is a fantasy. Like afterwards, like after we see him in the room, I kind of think he died, and that's just his dying fantasy. That stuff. But then
Oh, okay.
other people think it's real. Other people think it's him in a coma. But I think that the shots that like in that scene were very like purposeful, and the camera, it's all like crane shots, like floating away from his body, like really
Yeah.
slowly floating away out of that room, down the hallway, seeing all the carnage that he caused, then like out in the street and zooming out, it's like floating away. That I feel like that's kind of supposed to be his like soul, like floating away from his body at death. So I feel like everything after that is a fantasy.
Yeah. Well,
Because it's just so, the Sybil Shepherd, like her face in the rear view mirror, like is so purposefully like those old Hollywood glamour shots, like with it's very, her face is like just glowing and out of focus. And like, she's just like, oh, Travis, like, to me, it's just like so fantasy that like, I can't buy that actually happened.
Yeah. Dude, oh my God. Those final shots with the rear mirror, like that is the pinnacle of cinematography. And it's literally like a fucking half. It's just like that little circle in the center of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so potent. Like it feels supernatural. It feels magical and like fantastical. But also that shot that you talked about where it's craning over like all the dead corpses. Like that is like, oh my God. Like when that happened, I was like, holy shit. Because like it reminded me how like Paul Schrader does the like everyone stand still and we're gonna hold this shot. Like that is the pinnacle of what I feel like that shot is trying to achieve, is that like snapshot, and then you're moving the camera showing, finality, and you as the viewer escaping that area.
And
then apparently
slowly.
They had to get that shot in like 20 minutes because they only had 20 minutes with Jodie Foster or something, because like child acting rules. And I was like, oh my God, that is like peak cinematic touch right there. That's insane.
Yeah. And the editing in that scene is so weird and so like jarring. It's like there's some shots that are in slow motion. There's some shots that seem like they're in fast motion. There's just the sudden shots of like gore. Like my favorite, one of my favorite, that is seriously like one of my favorite. I know you're not a gore fan, but like one of my favorite just shocking gore moments in a movie that you're really not expecting is when that guy gets most of his hand blown off by the 44 Magnum. I just love that. Like that is just, it was done so well, and I'm sure it was very low budget and everything, but just like I love that because it's just so shocking in some weird way that it's just like 3/4 of his hand, just gets blown off. Man. And the blood smeared on the walls. They're just when the camera's coming out, just so much blood. It's just like, and I don't know if you probably read that, like that was the studio wanted him to cut that entire ending, like with like all the ending of the violence with him going in the building and doing all of that. Like the studio wanted him to cut that entire ending, and it sounded like he almost had a nervous breakdown, just like like trying to figure out how to make the movie work with them demanding this. And I think he just he showed the scene to Steven Spielberg of all people, and like Steven Spielberg loved it so much he's like, no, you have to keep that in the movie, like you have to fight for this ending. And he decided to desaturate it. I think that's how he got the R rating, was he desaturated the colors in that scene. And then I think also, I don't know if you noticed this either, a weird little thing is that the first time he goes into a porno theater, the screen when he walks in is just totally blurred. It's just like a blurred screen. And I think that was just to get an R rating also. But yeah, it's just crazy. It's just, I can't imagine. I mean, the ending is great. Like that was what I think in another review, like I said, how some of the Paul Schrader movies, the Card Counter, and then even First Reformed a little bit to me, just don't have that like explosion at the end that makes it worth it. And like this movie has that. And I kind of wished movies like The Card Counter had this kind of ending, that felt like a catharsis.
Yeah. I agree. It felt like it almost felt like Tarantino-esque. Like, how Tarantino films always end in some sort of shootout. Like that's what this felt like. And it feels perfect. Like it does make me wonder. It's like, man, like maybe I would have liked to see First Reformed end with a whole church blowing up.
Something. I don't know. Yeah.
Like that would be a pretty hardcore like punch in the gut. And I think that's what this film does. Well, I feel like it really works in this film because that ends the film technically, and then you have the like this post moment where it's that when he interacts with Sybil's character again, and I don't know, that was like such a beautiful ending to me. Like it was such a downer off that explosive moment of like violence,
Mm-hmm.
and I love how they're like they kind of contradict each other. But
Yeah.
talking about how you interpreted that as not happening, I thought I didn't get that feeling at all. I felt like it was like that all did happen, and then the idea or the terror is that he's on the street again, and just like how just he couldn't kill one person, so then he ended up doing this that was considered a good deed. Like he's just going to explode again, and like I feel like that's the problem of this character. Like not in the film, well, in my personal taste, but like the problem of Travis Bickle as a person in this world is that he has no, like there's not going to be a happy ending. Like he's just going to burn out for however long it takes for him to like have enough pent up energy, and then something's going to happen, and then he's just going to explode again. And then probably that next time it's not going to be drug dealers and a sex
Yeah.
trafficker, you know?
Yeah. I like that. Like I feel like that's a pretty good reading, like satisfying that it's like, oh, that's the tragedy is that he's just gonna they because he killed the right people, like this crazy man is like free to roam. Kind of
Yeah.
like a death wish kind of thing, like vigilante, like, oh, okay, he's like good enough of a vigilante that he got let go. I don't know, but I just can't buy it. I just can't buy that he wouldn't have gone to jail for all of that somehow, and then that that Sybil Shepherd would get anywhere near him, that she wouldn't, if she saw him, if she got in a cab and saw him in the mirror, that she wouldn't immediately jump out of the car and run away
Yeah.
because he was very creepy to her. And I don't know, the dreamy aspect of it, and the too perfect letter from Iris's parents to him, thanking him, like, oh my goodness, like just the gushing letter of thanks from the
Yeah.
parents. And I don't know, I kind of like both. I like your version and the fantasy version also, because I guess they're both really tragic
So
that
so
he would imagine.
would you be upset if the writers and directors said what that scene was actually?
Yeah, well, but it's kind of like death of the author. I would just discount whatever they said, because I would be like, you
Okay.
know what, it's a piece of art.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
how they they throw
Because I
Travis out as just a completely worthless human being. Like I feel
yeah.
like there's some like core that he wants to do good somehow.
Oh, you
Like
feel that
with
for Travis?
Yeah, a little bit. Like he does. Obviously, it's selfish, but
See, I don't think.
I I understand the fact that the whole Iris thing was a backup plan. That's very suspicious. But uh, I don't know. Like the fact that the whole like the guy gives him the $20 when he first sees Iris, and the pimp is pulling her out of the taxi
Yeah.
really awkwardly, and he gives him the $20, and he feels guilty about taking the $20. So okay, there's like a core of there's some kind of morality in his brain, because he looks at that $20 and it like sits there in his cab all night, and then he just reluctantly takes it, but then later he gives it right back to the creepy man in the hallway. um and I don't know, like there's but and then even in the scene, something I noticed this time watching it, when he goes up into the bedroom with Iris and he's talking to her, like there's one shot there when she's taking off her, or starting to take off her shirt, and there's a shot of him, and the look on his face, I'm like it looks like desire or like curiosity, like for a split
Yeah.
second. But then there's like a couple seconds, and then he tells her like, don't do that, like blah blah blah. And so then I don't know, it's like he's wrestling with himself. Like I
Yeah.
see I see a little bit, I see a part of him that is trying to do the right thing, or like trying to be a good person and like
Yeah.
help someone.
See,
So I don't know.
see, I don't agree with it because it's like if he wanted to help her, then he would have killed them first and then killed the politician. Like the fact that he had planned to die and he was just going to give her money to like go away or something. Uh, I don't know. And then also it's like when he talks to her, like that conversation in the diner, uh, it never feels like he actually cares about her. He cares about what he thinks she should be. He's like, well, you need to be like a normal girl and do whatever. And like not saying that, like her child prostitution's obviously insanely bad and immoral and illegal as fuck. And yeah, but it's like, but in his mind, that's not. I don't think that's really the problem. It's that he's not doing normal girl stuff. And then it's the bigger problem is the men who control her versus her having her freedom. Like I don't know, it's just so weird. But it is like an interesting conflict because he's like, well, don't you want to do something? Like don't you want to go somewhere? But then at the same time, it's like, Travis, like, don't you want to do something? Like, you don't...
See, that's another like projecting thing that like he should be giving himself that pep talk, but instead he's giving it to someone else, and it's like that's the entire movie. Maybe that I just feel it. God, the more we talk about it, yeah, like that's the empathy, I guess. That's like the core of like I feel sorry for him. Like he's not like a completely evil person. He's just like he needs a good psychiatrist and like a friend or something. I don't know. Probably more a psychiatrist, but
I love that scene between them two. Like,
yeah, that was
Jodie Foster is like fucking like that's so crazy that she was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And she did this role. Like that is insanity. But then like her holding that scene with De Niro, like it's so, it felt so real and organic. And like they're back and forth and how she's like eating her sandwich. And then she has a line where she was like, what did she say? She's like, I don't know who's weirder, me or you. And like, I don't know, that line was just a perfect, like the way she said it. I don't know. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if you read about like how that was the scene that her and like Robert De Niro, like when they were filming it, like called her up and wanted to go practice that scene. And like they practiced that scene like over and over again. And then sometimes like he would like until she got tired of it. But then he started improvising lines and she would improvise back to him. And then he would kind of go back to the script. Like the way she described it was like he would like drift in and out of the script, like while he was improvising. And I thought it was cool. I never thought about that method of improvising before, but she just said like she learned so much like just from that, from working with him. And that's so cool. It's cool. You can tell like from that scene because it's like they've done it so much that it's just so natural, It's and then her costumes are great. Like really all the costuming, like his outfits throughout this movie are great. Like whoever was in charge of that, like the green jacket that he wears is just like classic. The mohawk, like the glasses, the aviators, like that he wears, and then all of her weird prostitute outfits, but also like that scene where she's in the diner and she's like the weird, like she starts out wearing these like weird green glasses that like it's like you can just through that costume choice, it's like you can kind of tell like, or it's reminding you like this is like a little kid, like this is still like she's a kid, and then how she pours, I don't know if you read this, but like she pours a bunch of sugar on top of her toast or something, and like it comes across like yeah, she's like really innocent and like childlike, but the reason she did that was because she was with like a former child prostitute or something that she was, like shadowing, not on the job, but like, like was observing a former prostitute and observed them adding a bunch of sugar to their meal. But the reason they were doing it was because it helped when you were coming down from like heroin. But she didn't know that, but she did it for a complete, just because she observed it. But it's so funny that it like works so perfect. Just that little thing. Like it makes sense for her character to be doing that. So I don't know. So many good things. And then like how she talks about like all all the sign. What do you call that? Astrology signs. But like she says some of them wrong. She calls him a scorpion instead of a
Yeah.
Scorpio, and she messes up another one. But just so many nice little touches that are just like, this is great. This is great writing. I mean, I think most of it was the script, and then some of it maybe was ad lib, and then obviously they were both great actors. But
Yeah.
yeah, such a
Yeah, I
great
think
scene.
yeah, I think all the performances are insane. Like even God, what's the name of the pimp the actor?
Harvey Keitel,
Yeah, he was amazing as that
he's great.
character.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it was so I don't know, that one also felt so real. Like I can't imagine any other performer doing that role. And like even though he only had like 3 or 4 scenes, like it immediately felt like an entire character.
yeah. He's a great actor. Yeah, like man, if we ever get around to watching Bad Lieutenant or what was Martin Scorsese's very first movie that he did before Mean Streets.
Oh.
Like he's great in both of those. But
Oh man.
yeah, like every actor, and even the guy that plays the Tom or whatever his name is in The Office, that's like with Sybil Shepherd.
Oh,
Like he's a good actor too. I thought he did well with that. Apparently, he improvised a lot of that. Like they improvised a lot of the banter. And like it's funny. Like I don't know. Every time they're talking and ad libbing or whatever, like it's funny. Like it provides like a little relief from all the darkness of the movie.
yeah.
But
Albert Brooks.
yeah, he plays like just a great like him and Sybil Shepherd. Like they're so. I feel like I saw their types in like college. Like a lot of it's like people who are like young people who are like really trying to go out there in the world and like make a difference, and like they're doing the right thing, and they're liberal but they're hip, and
Yeah.
but they're also nerdy and very privileged, and they don't realize it. And I don't know, I thought they played those characters really well. But
Yeah. I would agree. Oh, and I just looked up. This film had a budget of $1.3 million.
yeah.
That is insane. Like, holy shit, dude. That blows my mind.
And Robert De Niro only got paid $35,000 for this role.
Wow.
And like this was, I think it was like after he had been picked, like after he'd signed the contract, but before they started filming, he won the Oscar for Godfather Part 2. And so he was like like he was getting like $500,000 contracts for other movies, but
Yeah.
he had already committed to this movie, and like they were apparently everyone was like super nervous about it. But like he sounds like a really nice guy because he went with his original contract, and he got paid $35,000 for this movie.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he worked like he like took it really seriously. And like he when he was in France, I think, for another movie, 1900, which I've never seen. And while he was over there, he talked to a bunch of soldiers that were over there, like to get kind of their lingo, or like I don't know, he's looking for like how they talk, like Midwesterners, because apparently his character is supposed to be like, obviously like not from the city, and so he wanted to like get that kind of awkward, I'm just a Midwestern boy who got went off to the war and then came back to the big city. And so
Yeah.
I like his way of talking. Like the way he talks through this movie is very
Yeah.
interesting. It's all very monotone, but like very folksy, and makes him kind of likable, but at the same time he's not. But yeah, it's like he put so much into this role.
Yeah. And speaking about his performance, like, and how you're talking about his voice, like, there's something about his voice that makes him sound like, even though he's saying these deep, like diabolical things, like how he's talking, like, I don't know, there's something that just makes him feel very, I guess the word is dumb, like
Yeah.
it just feels like someone who thinks they know what they're saying, but they don't. Like, there's like some sort of like subconscious, like, it's like when you answer a question that you're not sure is the correct answer, but then
Hmm.
you answer it with like this fake confidence. Like, and then I love and the scene that like really hits this home for me is right after the mirror scene, which I have to say, like, I was like excited to finally see that scene because I've seen it like outside the film, and
Yeah.
it's like considered like one of the greatest like scenes in like cinema history. Like it's so renowned and shit. But I actually didn't like. I didn't think it was a bad scene. Like I liked it in the film, but it's kind of weird thinking like, what? Why did that scene? You know, out of all
Yeah.
the scenes in this film, like that was the one. Because I feel like there's way more powerful lines of dialogue and moments of performance. And like one of my favorite scenes of this film is right after that. He's like laying in his bed and he's like, God damn it, I forgot the exact verbiage he used, but listen up, shitheads, and like
Yeah.
here's my, and then like he fucks up, and then he starts like, listen up, shitheads, here's my, and like that is like the peak. Like I love that scene so much. Like I want to
Yeah.
memorize that because like the fact that he screws up and like and that's like the vocal connotation that I'm trying to explain is like how he delivers that is how like I don't know, it's just something with how he speaks just eludes this energy of like it's just awkwardness. You know, like you're even when he talks confidently to like Sybil Shepherd or whatever, you're like there's something like really off about you. Like what you're saying doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth. Like it's just how you're delivering it. And I feel like that's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I like that. I was gonna bring up whenever we got around to like talking about how like the Paul Schrader voiceover, you know, that's he's famous for. Like, which I thought it was funny because I guess I hadn't seen this movie in a long time and I didn't remember when the voiceover comes in. But at the beginning of the movie, like there were a couple of moments where I was like, I expected him to start doing a voiceover, but he didn't. Like it kind of saved it for like a little bit later into the movie, and I thought that was cool. But then like once he
Yeah.
starts, it's like there's a lot of cool, and I don't remember this happening in other Paul Schrader movies, like where he stutters. You know, like you can hear he's going through the thought process like while he's writing, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just adds to the the realness of it. Just like he's thinking through it, and obviously he doesn't have the wording just right. I mean, he's just writing it in his journal, so
It
it's cool. It's
it
really a nice touch.
yeah, it almost feels like it almost feels like he is fuck, what is the word? You know, someone who can't read.
Oh, illiterate, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like someone who is like kind of illiterate and he's having issues
Mm-hmm.
like memorizing words and then also like even when he's writing, it almost feels like he's like somewhat illiterate in constructing words and sentences and like I don't know. It's just it's perfect. And see like that, I don't know if that was in the script or that's all De Niro, but like it just it changes his typical voiceover uh
Mm-hmm.
you know cliche or whatever into a
Yeah.
very realistic, like it just reinforces his character over and over again, where I feel like most voiceover and dialogue, you know, most of the characters don't have interesting voices or they don't have it, like you don't feel their performance in their voice, where
Yeah.
De Niro just like it's just so insane how method he is like in this role. Like it's just like he is doing so much and it's insanity. Like I can't believe he didn't win like best actor for this. And the fact that like
Yeah.
the Joker, like I love Joaquin Phoenix, like that's my boy, but holy like dude, how did this not win? I don't even know what was nominated, but it's like this is by far the best portrayal of a damaged character by a performer, like bar none. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I
The,
just yeah. It's weird that it didn't win any Oscars.
yeah.
It's kind of insane.
The other
But
thing that I wanted to bring up about this film that I found amazing and shocking is like how I haven't seen enough like French New Wave films to say this, but it just feels extremely foreign. Like it feels like a French film, like the way it dives into these like weird subversive imagery. Like one specific, like one segment or segments that I want to mention is like when he gets the guns and he's training and he's like shooting the
Yeah.
targets. And there's scenes where it's just like he's completely surrounded in shadows and he's shooting, and every time he shoots, he's becoming smaller and smaller into the frame, and then you
Hmm.
see like the reverse angle of that with the targets, and it's just like some weird like art house type shit, and it's like damn, like it's so crazy how Scorsese can do art house shit in a traditional, slow burn thriller.
Yeah. And some of the, oh God, I love all the training montages and like him making his gear, like him making the guns, the slide. Like I love that. I love, I mean, just the like physically, like how he transformed himself for this movie. Like I just,
Yeah.
that's, it's just so like classic. Like his look, like it's like a skinny jacked, it's like it's a skinny dude. It would be like if I just started like working out in my apartment like crazy, which is what he,
Yeah.
which is what his character was doing. And like I thought of that whole segment where he's like doing the monologue about talking about discipline and how he does 50 push-ups a day every morning, and like it's just funny. Like that's the I wrote down like it's the kind of self-discipline that you only get from loneliness. Like that's exactly what he's doing. And oh my God, like his whole apartment, while I'm on the topic, like his whole apartment, his disgusting, just perfect apartment for this character. Just so like the floor, like even when you see like the floor, it's just like every color. Like I don't even know what material the floor is in the apartment. You got a random sink just on a random wall. It's all one room. He's got a shitty bed and his little desk and his tiny little TV that he kicks over and
Oh
breaks.
man.
And every time you see him eating, it's like something really disgusting. Like at some point, he's pouring schnapps into like pieces of bread that he's cut up in a bowl, and then he pours sugar on top of it and just starts eating it like cereal. And it's just like, oh my God, just everything about all of the in his apartment. Like I love, I loved all of that. It
Yeah.
was just the perfect aesthetic for that character.
Oh
Oh
man. Well,
man.
speaking of aesthetics, before I forget, like I absolutely loved how Scorsese and the cinematographer like shot the taxi. Like every time we see the
Yes.
taxi, every time he's riding in the taxi, like I've never seen a film where I felt so uneasy while he was driving, because he was never looking at the road. Like he's
Mm.
he's always like looking left or right, or looking at his like customers. And I'm like,
Yeah.
geez, he's gonna get in a fucking wreck, dude.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
it's interesting because I listened to like a podcast where an Uber driver was reviewing the movie, and he was talking about like this guy knows how to drive, and like supposedly De Niro was actually driving like all these scenes he was driving, and it was like Scorsese and the cinematographer in whatever seat they could find, and then the audio guy would be in the trunk.
That's cool.
Like this was like, and like that's also why I bring up the like $1 million budget. Like this film was like indie as fuck. Like it's just hearing like that would never happen today. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't even think I could get away with like having a boom, like an audio guy in the trunk of a car, and then to imagine that's in New York City, where
Yeah.
like I assume there's like car accidents every like 2 seconds because people just like fender bendering like all the fucking time everywhere. Like that's horrifying. And then to have the actor not even looking at the road. Oh my god, dude, I would have panic attacks.
And well, he literally Robert De Niro. Another thing, crazy thing for preparing, like he actually drove a New York taxi for like 2 months. Like
Ah,
he got like a guest. I don't know how they honorary taxi license or whatever. So he like literally drove like a yellow cab around New York for like for a few months to like get into it. So that's cool.
wow. That is, I mean, shit. He really learned how to drive. Cause it's weird. Cause I feel some sort of like, I can feel it. Cause like I'm at the point, like at my job, I'm a mailman. So like I'm at the point to where like I kind of zone out. and
Yeah.
then like I'll finish like a neighborhood and I'll have no recollection of like doing anything. Like I
Yeah.
don't remember who I delivered what to. It's just like you're just it's like an automatic motion. And like I
Mm-hmm.
love how De Niro, when he's like pulling in, it looks like he's swerving crazily because he's just like yanking the wheel. And like I do that where it like to anyone else it looks like, dude, you're about to do like a donut or spin out, but it's like you just know your vehicle so well that you're at the point where it's like second nature, and you
Mm-hmm.
wait till the last minute to like curb the wheel, or how he like moves the like little time lever. Like it
Yeah.
feels like motions of habit that feel kind of like insane to anyone else, but to him it's just like it's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. You could see his prep.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I heard was that during the scene with Scorsese, that De Niro was actually telling him like how to perform, and that De Niro was like, "I'm not gonna pull this lever down until you convince me to do it." And that the whole like repetitiveness that Scorsese kept doing was because De Niro was like, "I'm not gonna look at that window until you convince me to look at it."
That's cool.
So I was like, God, that's fucking awesome. And like it just shows how he's not just committed to his role and performance as an actor, but he's committed to everyone around him, delivering the best performance they can.
Yeah.
Like I guess
Yeah.
because he's just obsessed with delivering, and yeah, it's fucking crazy.
He is. He's a real one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you have any major quotes or like quotes that you love that you wanted to talk about?
Uh, I like we were talking about the weird things that he says. I mean, there were there's some like where he's talking like he says something like I'm not for that life of like self-indulgent, something or other. I think someone should become a person like other people. Like I thought that was such a good line of like
Yeah.
just showing how like he's trying like you were saying he's trying to sound smart but he's kind of dumb, but also like it's weird. Like it shows his disconnection. It's like he's an alien who's like really
Yeah.
trying to figure out people. He really just wants to become a person. Like that's all he wants to do. So that was a cool line. And then at some point he says something that kind of makes sense where he's like you're only as healthy as you feel.
Oh my
And
god,
I'm like, all
yeah.
right, that sounds really dumb, but also that's kind of true. It's like a truism because
And how he delivers that, because he says that the first time and then he says it again, like you're only as healthy as you feel.
yeah, he says it really
Oh my
slow.
god.
Yeah. At some point, I think he says it like, "I'm God's lonely man." Like, oof, just but put that. All right, when Paul Schrader dies and they do write his official biography, that's the title, "God's lonely
Yeah.
man," because that's his character. That's his thing that he keeps coming back to. That's such a perfect line that just encapsulates that. So yeah, those are the main ones that I really liked.
Nice. Jesus, you're only as healthy as you. That's yeah. That is like that's some stuff you would find on like Reddit and like shower thoughts subreddit. It's like deep
Yeah,
thoughts.
yeah. There's a lot like that. Yeah, it's like that
God,
feeling.
that's awesome. Oh man, was there any other like big moments you wanted to talk about or scenes that we haven't
Oh
covered?
God, let me think.
Let's see.
Oh
I did like all the moments with the taxi drivers. Like I really liked
oh yeah,
how
yeah.
realistic, like it felt like I wouldn't be surprised if we read or found out that those were all like real taxi drivers or something. Like they just felt like a real cast of people and like their uniqueness.
Yeah, they seemed like really good buddies, that had been around. They're just passing stories around of their crazy passengers, and yeah, felt really real. But then
Yeah.
also like during this one of those the first scene, like just the social awkwardness of Travis was just so well done. Of just him sitting down and like it's like he's trying to be part of the group, but it's like they constantly have to like if they talk to him, they always have to like say it twice because he's not paying attention because he's so like in his own world, and it's just a lot of good touches in those scenes. But
Oh yeah, that reminds me. There is like a kind of subliminal. Well, it's not subliminal, but like I feel like there's a layer that didn't really get dug into, which was the fact that he supposedly hasn't slept for days or weeks or
yeah,
months or something,
yeah, hmm,
and it makes sense how the editing and the visuals feel like this weird dreamlike state. And like one moment that I really love that I know like other people have reused it, or I think he copied it from like Godard or something. The bubbling cup of like
hmm,
Alka Seltzer or something,
yeah, yeah.
and how he just like zones out. I would love, I would have loved them for them to like dig deeper into his like insomnia, like I don't know, like that's just kind of crazy that this guy is just because you know insomnia really fucking can destroy someone's mental integrity.
Oh, sure, yeah. And he has like, yeah, like it's like mental illness on top of insomnia, on top of, you know, he's popping pills throughout the movie. We don't know what they are, but
Yeah,
and
I was
then
wondering
lots of
what.
stuff. Yeah, so it's like he's got a lot of stressors.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. But yeah. Oh, I liked that random scene, like where he's writing the card to his parents, and it's just like so sad because it's like so obvious how disconnected he is from his parents that he
Yeah.
doesn't exactly remember the date of his dad's or his mom's birthday or Father's Day, but he's gonna just write. He's just gonna send him a card, for to cover all of that. And he's lying about his life and lying about meeting a girl and all this stuff. And then the punchline on all of that is he closes the card and it's a happy anniversary card. So it's just like he's just totally either I don't know, either he's totally out of it at that point or he's he doesn't care. I guess that's just showing he doesn't really care about his parents. He's just doing it out of I don't know or what, but I love that. That was a great little scene.
Yeah. See, yeah, that's another like reinforcement of he's just doing what he perceives that other people do so he can be a
Mhm.
person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Man, see, I would have loved to see like if he was born like this or if he was like this forever or like was there a catalyst moment that made him kind of lose touch with humanity or like his own humanity in a way.
Yeah, I could see that, but I do have it's weird. I think we said this, or you said the same thing. I think with Saint Maud, and it's like I think
Yeah.
I was about to say the exact same response that I think I said there, which is like, for some reason I like when they don't show when you have a really
Yeah.
messed up character and they don't really show how they got to this point, but it's
Yeah.
just like I don't know why I like that, but
Yeah.
I do. Just the mystery of it makes it more messed up because you're like, what is with this dude?
Yeah.
What is his deal?
Yeah. I think it's
Uh,
just I am naturally more attuned to like melodrama. Like I love like that the drama and like
mm-hmm.
I feel like having and then he was a damaged child. You know, like that's like drama for drama's sake. Like and I'm like that's what feeds me.
Gotcha.
But talking about that, like drama and like performance, what did you think about the scene where he first goes to the rally or whatever, and there's that Secret Service agent and his
Oh
whole
yeah,
back and forth with that character?
I love that. That's so funny. Like one of those funny scenes where he just like, I bet you people like that, like security guards, that actually probably happens to them all the time, where they just have a really weird dude walk up to them and try to like strike up a conversation with them. And I love the whole back and forth of you're kind of like, okay, he's really dumb. Like we already know that he's kind of dumb. So I was like, is he really falling for the whole just let me write down your name and address and we'll send you uh we'll we'll send you the guide to how to become a Secret Service agent. But then he
You know
gives
what?
the fake name and address.
Yeah.
So but then he gives the 6-digit zip code. So it's like, it was just such a great like back and forth of like him trying to be smart and sneaky, but also him being dumb. And it was so fun. Yeah. The awkward eye contact for the longest time at the beginning before he even says anything. And then he
Yeah.
tries to act natural after that. It's like, oh my God, dude. But then it's like, what was the point of him doing that? Besides, the only thing I could think of was that he had all his guns on and weapons underneath, and he was just testing to see if he came across as suspicious or not, or like
Yeah.
if he could get away with having all those weapons on him without the guy noticing. Like he just got pleasure out of that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. That's all I got out of that.
I think it was that, and also because he asked them like, "What kind of guns do y'all carry?" So it was
Mhm.
kind of like scoping the scenario. But I think he just got so lost in conversation that I don't know. Like he didn't really get any real info out of that person.
No, not at all. Oh, and that reminds me of another great scene we have not mentioned, which is when he goes and buys the guns from the
Oh
guy,
man.
and that character is just so great. What a great like little like stealing the scene character where he's acting at first like he's like a high. He only deals with, he's like, I only deal with I could deal with the people on the streets. I could sell this gun to someone for $500 or whatever, but I want to deal with like, I only deal with the good customers, like the high rolling customers or whatever. He makes some comment like that. But then after he buys all the guns, he's just immediately is like trying to sell him every single drug imaginable. Just like rattling off all the drugs, and then he could sell him a Cadillac. He'll sell him anything. Like it's just funny. That guy's so desperate.
Oh
He
my
sees
god.
he
See,
sees he's got a big spender on his hands, so he's yeah.
I
What
heard
were you
that
gonna say?
was all improv as well, like that whole final after the
Yeah,
gun selling thing. But
yeah, which
an-
is cool.
another moment in that scene that I really liked, which ties into the whole, oh, and then we haven't talked about this either, but like how he grabs the gun and then he's like aiming it out the window, and then we kind of see it like a, like a fucking
Yeah.
first person shooter kind of perspective, and then he
Mm-hmm.
just stops the gun at like some random family on the street. And then it's like, man, like what are you doing? Like like what is it go like, and I love how like there's these moments where you don't hear the voiceover. And like those are the moments where like me, I'm like, well that I want to know what he's thinking right there cuz I don't understand. Like I don't get it. And like I guess that leads me to the other thing is one of my favorite scenes. Like I don't know how this isn't like the moment that's been immortalized of this film is that when he kills everyone leading up to that while he's going up and killing everyone to reach Iris, he falls onto the couch and then the cops come in and then he puts the gun to his head and he goes
Yeah.
like that is that to me is like after seeing that I was like, oh my god, that is the moment. Like that
Yeah. Yeah.
you making those, like it almost sounds like a fake western movie. Like it doesn't sound like a normal gunshot. It just sounds like a kid making a gunshot noise, and then how his fingers like perfectly dripping blood.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
and his performance, like that is probably like my favorite scene right there. Is just that moment.
Yeah, that climax is like hard to beat. Oh, I hear a cat.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That remind. Oh, I was gonna say with the guns too, like the obvious like phallus symbol of the gun, like throughout the movie was hilarious. Like, the first shot of it, I love when he shows them the 44 Magnum, and it's just like a close up panning shot from the the barrel to the tip of it. It's like such a loving, like such a caressing shot across that gun that it's like sexual. It's like that's how I read that shot. And then there's all the scenes that he has that gun, it's like he's holding it between his legs or kind of caressing it, or like I don't know, there's a lot of moments like that it's like, oh, and then I think it's like right after he buys the guns, it cuts to him in one of those porno theaters where an actress is describing a penis, you know, like
Yeah.
for a while, and it's like, wow, it's so large, and it's like I thought that was funny. It's just a great cut there. I know it's an obvious symbol, but it's like it was funny. It was done humorously in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. The other little scene that I liked was him he's at another porn theater, and then he's just like his hands are over his face, and he's just like moving his like middle finger over his eyes. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. It just like there's something about that little performance. Like it reminds me of how we were talking about like in the card counter when Oscar Isaac just like walks to the pool. Like it seems like almost everything that De Niro is doing is like this subconscious method acting level. You know, like it feels like
Mm-hmm.
something that guy would do, and it
Yeah.
feels completely unplanned, like unstaged.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of little things like that. That's like, ah, man, there's so much in this movie. It's usually my the movies that are in my like top 10 or whatever, like the 10 out of 10s. It always has acting like that, where like the more you watch it, the more you notice just like tiny little things that the actors did that you're just like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
everything in this movie was like synchronized somehow.
Yeah.
Even though
Well,
the movie making process is just so chaotic, it's like amazing that this happens every once in a while.
yeah, like how does that happen in the moment with such a tight budget? And like I even read that they were like 5 days over their shoot, so they were just
Mm.
scrambling towards the end. One thing I wanted to bring up that I read that Scorsese said, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. But he said this is his most feminine film.
Feminine
Yeah,
or
yeah,
um,
feminine. And then his reasoning was that because it shows the natural conclusion of what masculinity brings. And
oh,
I was like, oh no, that is the baddest of bad takes because like it well in my and at least in my perspective because I'm like I don't think femininity is the opposite of masculinity. Like I don't think that's how well at least in my mind that's not how I see those two, you know, let's say regions or whatever. And
uh-huh.
it's just I don't know, it makes me like kind of understand a little well and this was in the 70s, so like I don't know if his perspective has changed on this or if he would give the same answer, but it's just that it makes me like kind of see that this film was like very highly like it was directed in that lens of like it's like that masculinity reinforcing a very toxic masculinity character, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's just interesting that he would say that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably not the best take. Yeah, I kept reading like they're like Paul Schrader and him quotes from them, and I kept thinking like it's almost like I don't know. They had weird takes on their own movie.
Yeah, it's
It's kind
very
of strange. Uh,
yeah. And I think that's the other reason I feel like the kind of grossness. Like I can kind of feel like that they like their intentions were right or whatever, but it's in their kind of distorted 70s lens, you know, like
hmm.
and yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you definitely can't put 2021 standards on this movie for sure.
Yeah.
I could see a lot of people like watching this movie that have not seen it and having even getting even more offended than you did by this by this movie
Oh
by
yeah. Dude,
different parts of it.
I don't see how this I don't think another film like this could be made. And like I was
Oh,
trying to
that's what. Yeah, I was thinking about. That's what I was gonna say at some point. Yeah, it's like, could this movie be? I don't think so. Just because of
yeah.
the dirtiness of it, like the grittiness of it. Where would they film a movie like this
Yeah.
besides like Detroit or something? But like, I don't know.
Well, I think like how I was saying, I don't think there's any real empathy or sympathy for the character. Like there's no reason why we should really care about him and there's no like defensive element of this character of Travis Bickle in my perspective. And I think that's what would destroy this film nowadays. Like if you are going to do such a scathing portrait of a character, then you have to have at least one element of him that's not, you know, evil because then it becomes like I could tell like, and like maybe that's why like Schrader's more recent works, like even First Reformed or Card Counter, like I feel like they have the same ideals as Travis to an extent, but they're more human, if that makes sense. Like they have some sort of morals, and it's you deciding if their morals are wrong or not. Where I don't think really Travis has any real morals. He's just whatever other people say are morally correct. Then that's what he kind of gathers, like a
Yeah,
scavenger.
I see. Maybe. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I still, for some reason, I don't know. I still tug in the direction of like that. There's something redeeming about him if he were
Yeah.
in a different environment, and that's what makes it tragic. Is that he's kind of just like a helpless. I don't know. He's just like a leaf being tossed in the winds. It's just like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have any other elements before we ask the penultimate question?
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, can you the closest that I can think of something that's making movies that are like this nowadays
Mm-hmm.
are the Safdie brother movies. Like,
Oh yeah.
uh, watching this time, I was reminded a lot of Good Time. Like, I felt that like where it's same thing in Good Time. Like you have a character that's just like that is the main character, but is also like despicable and like has no redeeming qualities. But I mean, he's just as fascinating to watch. Like it doesn't make, I don't know, it doesn't take anything away from the movie. But I mean, the thing that I guess they do that's different than Taxi Driver is that they have a character that is the complete opposite of them. Oh God, now that I think about it, I wonder if the Safdie brothers have talked about how Taxi Driver. I mean, if Good Time was influenced by Taxi Driver, because it's almost like the two characters in Taxi Driver or in Good Time are like uh, Travis Bickle, but like split into two people. Where like
Oh
one is the kind of like they're two brothers, and one
yeah.
is the kind of dumb, innocent brother that obviously has mental challenges, but is also innocent. And then the other one is the despicable guy that just takes advantage of everyone that he meets and is in it for himself and is completely selfish and violent and everything. But I was just thinking like that in general, like the mood, the way they use like real people in their movies,
Yeah.
and just the authentic feeling and the dirtiness that you feel and the uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Like they're the closest that are working today that are making movies like this.
Yeah. And it feels so New Yorkian. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this film
Yeah.
is like the penultimate so far that I've seen New York film. And like I haven't seen Good Time, but I saw Uncut Gems, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, this is like young Scorsese on crack."
Mm-hmm.
Like just the propulsive chaotic energy that they have. And then
Yeah.
I remember like hearing an interview with Scorsese like the first time he met them, that he told them is like I feel like I was just God, what did he say? Not Bogler, that he was when someone robs someone. I forgot the fucking term.
Plagiarized?
No, like not
Burglared?
jumped. It's like
I
I,
don't
I
know.
I forgot. Whatever.
But
Oh man.
he feels like he was like they took his stuff, like they took his oh no, that you're saying that's how he felt when he watched their movies?
No. When he met them, it was like he was being like assaulted.
Oh,
What is the word? It's like damn it. Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
damn, I don't know.
Let's see. I felt like I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I am excited to hopefully see another Safdie brothers films, and I need to see Good Time. I
Oh
did
my
watch
god.
like a couple of their like early short films. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they are
Uh-uh.
insanely New York. Like there's one of the early ones is just this guy just like walking around town, and like I don't know, it's just so weird, and it feels like a documentary, but it's fake, but it feels so real. And they're just like
Mm.
walking down New York with the camera, and they like have their lines, and then like their main character, which is like one of the brothers, will just interact with like normal New York people, and they don't
Mhm.
know they're in a movie, and he'll just like challenge them. Like he goes into a gas station
Yeah.
and he's just like being a douchebag, and the gas station guy is like, "Get the fuck out of here, man!" And then it's like, and they're just like capturing it in a film, and then like they make that make sense in like this larger narrative of all these characters. And I'm
Yeah.
like, God, that's so fuck. Like
We gotta, we gotta find an excuse to watch Good Time and talk about it, because, oh, that's one of those. It's so good. I don't know exactly what my. It's not a 10 out of 10 necessarily for me. Maybe if I watched it again, but it's got the same. Everything I liked about Taxi Driver is in that movie, except for maybe the cinematography. But
yeah, shit, I'm down, man.
we could transition from Taxi Driver to Good Time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings me to the penultimate question: is Taxi Driver canon?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree too. Yeah, I feel like there's no denying the level of artistry like here, and then like the level of influence that this film has had.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that brings, because I guess you have seen Joker, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like, what is? Because I hated that film. Did you enjoy any of that? Like having
I kind of
seen
liked
this
it.
first? Okay.
Yeah, I still kind of liked it. Like all the Taxi Driver references are so, like, once you've seen Taxi Driver, it's like they're so obvious. But I thought it was cool to combine that with a comic book movie for some reason, and then the visual palette is so different that I liked it. And I don't know, I still like that movie. It's I don't even remember what I would rate it.
Yeah.
Like a 6 or a 7, but I don't know. It's no Taxi Driver, but it is definitely it like cribs so much from Taxi Driver. the garbage strike and the settings, the
general like like there's like the Joker has no like political ideas or moral idea. Like it's just this blank slate of a person who is just damaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So this will officially make Taxi Driver like kind of our first official entry into the canon, because we forgot to ask the question for Mishima, but we'll revisit that question for that film whenever we do like a retrospective canon. Like I was thinking like maybe episode 50 or after the holidays, depending how crazy it gets in our lives.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll do like a recap, and I was thinking you could like get a list of all the films you would like want to put into the canon, and then if I've seen the films, we'll vote on them, and if I haven't, then we'll have that list of these are the things you say deserve to be in the canon. So I need to get to it to watch them, and then we can review them and hopefully add them and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that concludes our spoiler discussion for Taxi Driver. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review with your thoughts or comments, and if you could share us with your friends or family, as that really helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Cineverm.